Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 288 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your very happy, proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us tonight as we are covering this Saturday's Pacific Classic Day. Wow, what an incredible late pick 5 and card. Please make sure you hit that subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Smash that like button and hit the notification bell so that you know when new content will arise. You can follow me on Twitter at HKravitz on the name tag. Scrolling at the bottom of the screen, email hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We have power picks every Saturday. They're doing very well as usual. Check it out. Look below the video player for power picks every Saturday for some of the best racing across America with spot plays, price plays, ABC grids, and etc. We also have a great website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Now, we have so much to get to tonight. We got to start right away, but a little bit of a very happy surprise. If you have been following us on Twitter, of course, we're live here Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Myself, Kyle Roscoe, Pete Visco, and Paul Halloran, we all had a runner. We all co-ownership of a horse that ran today at Kentucky Downs. And before I tell you what happened, let's bring on the happy co-host first from the East Coast of Maryland, Pete Visco, from the Saratoga Special in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Paul Halloran, and the host of Bet and Boozin' and Crown's Way Racing partner, Mr. Kyle Roscoe. Guys, anything happen interesting today?
I don't know. Something in my name tag might give it away, but you know.
Kyle, why don't you take it away? Tell the crowd what happened about about an hour and a half ago.
God, I mean, how do I even start? Kentucky Downs last race number 10. We had the morning, all of us on the screen right now. We all had we have a decent part of an ownership of a horse named Copper Missile, and I know Howard has the replay ready to go, but we ended up winning a $150,000 maiden special weight at Kentucky
Let's
Downs.
go, baby.
I mean, that's awesome. And Tony can correct me in the chat, but I'm pretty sure that's the biggest purse that Crown's Way has taken home. I'm pretty sure.
Tony's in the hold on. We got Tony in the chat. Where's Tony here?
Yep.
Is he in the chat?
Yeah, he's in there. Yep.
Where is Tony?
Towards
Oh,
the
there
top.
we go. Tony. There you go. On the road. Be home, boys. That's right. Tony, congratulations, man. This is unbelievable. Tony Rollo. Explain to everyone who Tony is, Kyle, real quick.
Tony is the primary ownership of all of Crown's Way Racing. So he's the one, but not to mention, I will point this out as well. I'll give him some kudos. He is not only the owner of Crown's Way Racing and the founder, he is the primary bloodstock agent as well. He does all his own bloodstock work and picked this one out for $60,000 at OBS 2023 this March. I mean, what an unbelievable pickup, the trajectory he's going on right now.
Petey cost $60,000 and he just won a $90,000 purse. That is fantastic.
That
job
is.
by everyone involved. Because it is not easy to win these races at Kentucky Downs. We had to beat a Chad, Brian Lynch. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Brad Cox. Yeah, there was a great field.
Brad Cox.
And it is confirmed. It is the biggest purse ever in Crown's Way history.
Unbelievable. Let's show the replay real quick. We're just going to talk about it for a minute. We're very proud. Again, everyone on the let me just bring this back again. Everyone on this screen you see right now has partial ownership. This is not like $50 micro share. This is a little chunk of money with Crown's Way Racing. We're all very proud of that. So let's go ahead. Paul, why don't you take us through? We're not going to show the whole replay, but he's the 6th horse here. Let me move this up a little bit here. He's the 6th horse in the green and black. He's a big horse, Paul. He breaks well. It took him a little bit of time to get in the stride. He's right here, Paul.
Oh, he's muted. I'll unmute him.
Paul's muted. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say how it kind of worked out well. Early on, he was kind of on his own, and then Adam Beskiza, the Biscuit, does a good job here getting him back in touch with the field. And even though he's like 7th, he's only about 4.5 lengths off the lead. And I'm watching it here, And the stretch run here is so long, and it seems like there's always a scramble home. But you're saying if he has horse, he's going to be okay. And you see right there,
Took a little weird stuff on the hill and stuff, Paul.
Yeah,
I mean, he's green.
Yep. It looked that, or it looked like maybe he thought of staying inside and he couldn't. And now you'll see he's to the middle. But when just watch when he emerges from this pack in the never-ending stretch run, and we're glad it was a never-ending stretch run today. It was especially good because all the horses who were battling up front, I used with them. The rare occasion I got to enjoy a scramble to the wire. But you can take a look at where he is here. He's about sixth, right? Now watch him come through. He's got the white blaze
right here.
Can't go through. Now he's going to come between horses, and
right there. I'm like, you know what?
Right there,
a huge shot right here, Pete.
Pretty athletic for a pretty big horse too, which is impressive.
Look at his stride. Look how he reaches out. He's he got a huge stride, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, he was pulling away. I think if I remember correctly, the announcer didn't even really talk. It was one of those where he didn't even talk about him until he kind of struck the lead. He snuck through so quickly.
And then I watched. They're going to show the gallop out. I mean, he galloped out full of energy right here. Tony Rallo just texted me, guys. By the way, a little bit ago, said he looks great. He's like barely even tired. Look, guys, it's time to dream. Bourbon at Keeneland. It looks like. In the win and you're in. Why not, guys? October 8th, Paul and Pete, get that flight reservation ready, baby. We're going to the Breeders' Cup. Let's go.
God.
You know what? I know it's a little silly because he just broke his maiden, but it's not that silly when you have 2-year-olds on the turf when they break their maiden, especially the way that he did it. I mean, you don't have to be, 100 buyer. I mean, obviously he's going to have to win the next race if that's what they choose to do. We are literally putting the cart before the horse here, but if that's what they choose to do, guys, and he runs well, I mean, who really knows? Distance is not an issue for this horse at all.
No.
I mean, he had a 72 buyer in his debut and a nice closing.
62.
Was it 60? You sure?
62.
Oh, you know what? I was looking at the Brisnet PPs today.
That's right.
So he was a 72 on there. That was the PPs I was looking at. So
I mean, you probably got a mid-70s. I'm not.
You got to get into the mid-70s. Yeah, you got to get into the 70s.
The way he did it, though, Kyle. Something about the way he did it. I know we're all excited because it's we had partial ownership, but even if that was some horse I was just watching, I'm like, wow, that was pretty impressive, right? I mean, just the way he did it was really good.
I mean, we all talk about all the time how hard it is for these 2-year-olds to be crowded and in between horses. And the fact that he legitimately pulled, he almost had to bully that inside horse to get away through. Yeah. And I mean, that's all credit to Bashizzle that Howard likes to say.
My nizzle, right?
Yeah, Bashizzle, my nizzle. He's such a good guy and he's a great rider. It's a perfect ride. And like you said, galloped out full of energy. Why not? We have high hopes for him. And I know Tony does as well.
And Kelsey Danner, guys. I mean, can we please, she is one of the best trainers in the country. I don't care what people say. I mean, her ROI is off the charts. I don't know what it is, but she just never really gets bet. I don't understand why. She's really good. Well, anyway, we're gonna let you go, Kyle. We got a little Del Mar show to do, but you wanted to come on. Last thing before we come on here, and look who's here, Pete and Paul. Another shout out from Israel. He got it right. Israel, good job. You got it right. My 7th grade college algebra honors.
Wait, he's really shooting for that. He's really shooting for that A now. I give the kid credit.
Pete and Paul actually showed the clip from last week in class. They loved it. They were laughing. It was beautiful.
Now all of them are going to let you go. Now all of them are going to be in the chat looking for those A's.
Well, yeah. That's all right. We're going to let you go, Kyle. Thanks for coming on real quick. Congratulations,
Kyle.
To all the partners of Crownsway Racing, Kelsey Danner, Adam Bishiza, Tony Rallo, everyone else. Kyle, take care. Have a great night.
You too, guys. Have a good show.
All right, thanks. All right, we've got one more guest to bring on, co-host. And the reason why I want to bring on this co-host, guys, this young man has been absolutely destroying it at Del Mar. And I'll let him very quickly talk about his 2 big scores he's had. He is a part-time co-host of Bettin' and Boozin', fantastic young man and an excellent handicapper, lives in the LA area. He's very familiar with California racing, grew up with it. Let's bring him on. He's going to help us tonight crush this late pick 5 at Del Mar. It is Noah Maher. Noah, what's going on?
What's going on, gents?
What's up, man?
We're doing
Noah.
good. Noah, thanks for coming on. Noah, real quick, before we talk about your 2 scores, just for those people that are not familiar, if you want to lower your camera just a little bit, Noah, maybe so we can, so you're more on the top. There we go. If you want to sub in real quick, where you're, well, I just mentioned where you're from, where you are right now, and why, and very quickly when you started getting into horse racing.
Okay, so I'm originally from Orange County, California. I'm currently a sophomore here at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, about 10, 15 minutes from Keeneland. So I take various trips while they're running in their spring and fall meets. But I'm in the equine program here. And how I got into horse racing was my grandpa and my dad introduced me to it. When I was really little, we would go out to Los Alamitos and kind of we would go to the Vessels Club, which is kind of like off-track betting. And I was probably telling my dad to make $2 win bets at the age of 10, and then started reading the form probably about 13 or 14. So that's kind of led me here.
Yeah, so I mean, you've been at it for quite a while. It's a great story. Again, just another person, guys, that just started joining the live chat one day. Long story short, we met Noah. He has a few did some interning, also with TVG and with Caleb Keller as well. So no, we might. I'll tell you what. I just told you a few nights ago that I wasn't going to Keeneland most likely this fall. If a horse called Copper Missile is in the Bourbon on Sunday, October 8th. I will be there, sir, for the win and you're in. So maybe I will see you sooner than the Breeders' Cup. Real quick, no, you've had 2 unbelievable scores this summer. Tell everyone just real quick. You don't have to give the dollar amounts unless you'd like to, but just the type of bets they were, real quick.
So at the beginning of August, my dad and I split an early pick 5. I think it was a $216 ticket. We hit the first 2 legs, and the third leg, one of our horses was declared a non-starter, and it scratched us into the favorite that ended up winning. So during the race, we were like, oh shit, like we got no chance. And the favorite ends up winning, and we just thought the horse kind of, tossed the jockey or whatever, but sure enough, they declared him a non-starter. And we hit the next 2 legs, and that paid a little over 18,000. So we split that. That was that's pretty good for my college budget right now. And then last, I want to say either Saturday or Sunday, I played another early pick 5 on my own. I was actually moving into my apartment, which is kind of funny. So as my mom and I were kind of setting stuff up, I was watching races on my phone on the side. And that one, I think that one ended up paying north of 2,500, if I'm correct. So that was just the cherry on top.
Beautiful.
It's great. And Noah and I have partnered up on some pick 5s lately, and I didn't need our partnership to know what kind of handicapper he is. So no, we're happy to have you on your maiden voyage here. Hopefully you're breaking your maiden here on the flagship show, but you can check out Noah once in a while also on Betting and Boozing on Wednesday nights. All right, guys, let's get into the late pick 5. This is one of the most challenging sequence I think we've had on this show in over 2.5 years. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your butt, everyone. I mean, this is a very, very difficult and fun sequence. I found it hard to find anyone you could really lean on. This pick 5 is going to pay on Saturday. There's winning your ins. Of course, we got the Pacific Classic. No flight lines this year because Flightline would win this year's race by 40 lengths, not even 20 lengths. But it's a very good race anyway. It was some 3-year-olds. But, guys, let's go ahead and start with race 7. Everyone at home, be ready to write some stuff down. Be very active in the chat. We also have Jim Miller, by the way, coming on in about 45 minutes to talk about closing weekend at Hawthorne Racecourse. There's our picks for race 7, and you're going to see picks all over the map because this is a very difficult sequence. So if you see anything familiar, I'd be, similarities with our picks, I'd actually be quite impressed and surprised. Let me go ahead and bring up the first race. Race 7, this is the opening leg of the pick 5 Saturday at Del Mar. I would say Saturday night. It will be night depending on where you are. It's the Del Mar Mile. It's a grade 2, $300,000 for the older males, a big field of 10. The morning line favorite is the number 4, Exalted, for Peter Erden and Juan Hernandez. And Exalted is on an absolute roll. Pete and Paul, you both have the 4. Pete, we'll go to you first. What do you like about Exalted in the Del Mar Mile?
I mean, it's always I always a sucker for when a horse makes a change, and in this case, it was the surface move, and they made the change to the turf back in January, and since then, this horse has done absolutely nothing wrong. 4 straight wins, nice buyer. Time form is sort of complemented the buyers. Is very tactical, so is always in position to run the race. Has Hernandez up, which is fantastic. There is. I think there's enough pace in here. There's actually plenty of pace. I feel like it never seems to materialize, but there's enough pace where I think this horse could sit right off and should be able to get first run on any of the closers, which there's a bunch of. And then I had a Peter Urton 8 for 17 wins, 14 for 17 in the money on the turf at Del Mar in the past month. So he is just lighting it up right now. So all that combined makes this horse at least a must use, I assume, on any of your tickets.
Paul, anything, obviously, guys, we're not going to be able to talk about every single horse on our screen due to time constraints, but Paul, anything you want to add to Exalted?
Only that, in my mind, it was strictly in addition to his form, it's a pace play. I'm interested that Noah has 5-1 because I think both of those horses are formidable. I'm just not sure they're going to get enough pace to run at least on paper. It doesn't look to me like the race is that fast. As Pete said, I think the 4 in that case sits a perfect trip. And unless he gets caught up in a duel, I think he gets first run and easily holds off the closes, but the 1 and 5 will both be coming.
No, I know you feel very strongly about Balnikov, which you don't have to tout your late pick 5 ticket, but I know you're very high in this horse. Little Red Feather always seems to show up in the big days. Hector Barrios having a really good meet. Ran a big race last time in the Eddie Reed. Cutting back, so I was actually surprised that he ran that well going a mile and 1/8. He seems more like a miler to me, but he ran huge anyway last time.
Yeah, he did run huge. I still think he needed the race. The mile and 8 is definitely too far. I mean, you look at his stats at a mile. He's 4 for 8 on the win end and 6 for 8 in the money. And the horses obviously run well at Del Mar. But I was watching that race, and I think his trip was a little bit sneaky. He kind of had a little bit of trouble. But during that race, he was kind of sitting right behind Gold Phoenix, who ended up being the winner and got a pretty good trip that day too. But as I hit the top of the stretch, Hector Barrios
it's right here on the inside. Everyone, he's the
I think on the turn as well. He does kind of shuffle a little bit or checks. Right about there, he
did take a little weird step there. Yeah.
But anyway, he's kind of following Gold Phoenix there, just kind of waiting for run, and they hit the top of the stretch, and there's a hole for Gold Phoenix. But Hector's kind of waiting right behind Gold Phoenix, and the horse kind of wants to go in, and he's got to try to get the horse out.
Yeah.
And then once he finally gets into the clear, it seems like he kind of starts to lengthen his stride. I know Gold Phoenix was kind of on the wrong lead, but he starts to gain on him, and I think he gallops out past him at the wire. So I feel like at the mile he'll have a little bit more of a turn of foot, and with that hot pace, maybe he can just sit the right trip.
Yeah, there he is right there. Actually, Gold Phoenix slightly better on the gallop out, but your point is well taken. That was a little bit of sneaky trouble there. Balnikov definitely a player in this race. I just think the question is what Pete mentioned. Will he get enough pace to set it up? Pete, you and I are sort of thinking alike here. And I got to tell you guys, I took a long time with this pick 5. I looked at all these races for quite a while. I am absolutely fascinated with Ward C, guys. And it just seems to me like horses like Balnikov and De Jour, like they can win, but it felt to me, guys, like a lot of horses sort of need their own way. Like they need things to go real well. And I've always had a lot of respect for Ron Ellis. I know, Ron Ellis does not have a big stable anymore. I mean, he's only run 7 times at this meet, run twice, only 17 times the entire year. But guys, he is at 30%. And I love the last replay. He's an improving 4-year-old. I think he's got some more tactical speed. And last time, and Pete, I'm going to let you talk about it too, because I'm sure you saw the same thing I did. He's the 7. This is 5 furlongs. I mean, you want definition of a prep. This is absolutely the definition of a prep. He's way back here. I mean, he's not even really, I won't say he's not trying, but he's way back here. And he makes this long, sustained run that will set him up for a mile. I think he would win this race normally. But you guys see how far the rails are out? And these horses keep, like, pushing him further out. He's, like, in the 4-path right now. And you can see how just the whole flow, he's got to, like, come to the outside. He's like, look, he's almost at the outer rail. And he finishes really well. And he gallops out past everyone. He's a big horse. I can tell that he's got a lot of upside, guys. He just absolutely blew by this field. And by the way, this is Beer Can Man, and there's Turn on the Jets. There's horses that are also racing Saturday. Pete, I don't know if he's going to get the trip. I don't know if he's good enough. But at double-digit odds, this horse to me is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. And the thing that I do like is you can get, there's a lot of progression that can happen from 3 to 4. And this horse came back off a pretty lengthy layoff, whatever that was, whatever that is, 11 months or so, and came back. And again, if you look at it from a buyer standpoint or a time form standpoint, it was just a big improvement. And it was doing something that you don't think that's what he wants to do, is turf sprinting. So stretching him out, him being able to run like that. I'm not a huge fan of Victor Espinoza, so I'm hoping he can work out a trip if he needs to. But I just feel like, again, I handicapped this with no morning lines and was pretty happy when I saw the 10-1 pop on this, and figure I'd rather have a horse that's sort of on the come up potentially, as opposed to some of the other ones that we know what they are at this point. So he might crap the bed, he might not be good enough, but he did run in the race last year, and ran a nice quality third, again off of a little bit of a layoff. This time he actually has a prep coming in, so I think he might even be a little sharper than he was last year off that nice third in his first graded stakes try. So
last year was actually the Del Mar Derby.
Well, no, I just meant more in the graded stakes on sort of this weekend. So he was running in. That was his big step up, and it wasn't even off it was off a layoff and everything, and it was his first time. So
he beat Cabo Spirit. He's faced Slow Down Andy. It's not like he doesn't have class. He costs $525. No, I don't know how familiar you are with Ron Ellis, because he's a little more earlier back and old school, but he's sort of like Mandela. He's very patient. I find this horse really interesting, Noah. I don't know if you have him at all anywhere. You gave him any thought?
I do not. I was kind of all over Boundikoff, to be honest.
Okay, I hear you. I got the 9-second. We're gonna move on. I did a lot of research for the show, guys. Twist has been working with Miss the Cut, who's in the last race of the day in that 1 3/8 race, and Twist completely was outworking Miss the Cut. They're both for salary, just to let you guys know. I'm not going to show the replay. He got through on the inside last time and got a dream trip, and he was like all over the track. No, I think you and I were invested in that pick 5, and we both like this horse a lot. I think we actually have this horse singled like on the end, or I can't recall. But this horse is getting better and better, even though he's 6. I'm just going price shopping, guys. Balnikov can win. De Jour can win. The Exalted obviously can win. I just don't want to take a small price, guys, in this race, and so I'm going price shopping. This is a very, very difficult race. You're going to hear that repeated a bunch of times. Let's go to race 8. And we got a lot of people commenting. We'll get to some of your comments, guys. Race 8 is the Torrey Pines. This is where the restricted 3-year-old girls, they are going a flat mile, which, of course, is 2 turns at Del Mar. It's a nice purse of, what's the purse? $150,000. It's a grade 3, right? Yeah, grade 3. You see the fielder, the biggest morning line favorite, and I guess the most likely winner of the pick 5, although only 2 of us have this horse on top, would be number 9, Feza, for Baffert and Pratt. And I remember very well, Pete, you and I think we're fading this horse last time at Pimlico and having to be right. We were a little bit cautious. This time, you are going with her, but Paul, let you go first. Feza, if she's right, might be very tough here for Baffert and Pratt.
Yeah, I think she has a lot going for her here. I think the post is okay. I think she has tactical speed, and I think the field's okay, but it's a grade 3, and certainly no more than that. I think most of the others you could have a knock on. I'm not, running in line to have a Bob Baffert odds-on favorite on my team, but I just think this horse can improve. That I think 1.125 miles is ultimately too far for this horse. I think the mile is going to hit her right between the eyes.
Are you? Do you think it was the ship in the last race, the distance? What happened, Paul? And are you all concerned about a fairly long layoff? I mean, she's missed some pretty important races for the girls. Or you could just say Bob's pointing to the spot. I don't know. I mean, if she was really that good, would Bob put her in $150,000 grade 3? I don't know how you guys felt. I thought it was a little bit weird that she's in this spot, Paul.
I think last time, Hoosier Philly on a good day is pretty good. Taxed run well. I just don't think. I think 1.125 miles, and I know you say, well, she dominated 1.116 miles twice. Those were not tremendous fields.
Yeah.
She was odds on in both of them. Could it have been the ship? First time shipping across the country? Sure. And I think that's maybe why she lands in a spot like this, Howard, because of the layoff, because of kind of easing her back in. But, if we'll see what happens in this field. But I would suspect that if she blitzes this field, he'll have some plans for her down the line. I don't, like I said, I'm not in a hurry to bet her at odds on. I just didn't love the field, and I thought she kind of stood over the field.
Yeah, she's the horse to beat. Trish Smith, by the way, Noah, Trish Smith, sorry, you're covered on the screen there, Noah. Trish Smith lives in Lexington. She's been a fan a long time. I've met her. Trish Smith is awesome. Trish, maybe we'll see you at the Bourbon, October 8th, if Copper Missile's running. Pete, I think Faze would be best taking off the pace here. I think that would give her the best chance. There's a lot of speed. I won't say cheap speed, but there's a lot of early speed, Pete, on paper.
There is, and she's shown that she can do that, which is, so she wouldn't be doing something out of her comfort zone if she does take back and sit off. So I'm not too concerned about that. And Baffert, for all whether you like him or not, I don't worry as much about a layoff with him because he works his horses. So he knows, they're going to come in fit. If the horse is ready, she's going to be fit coming in regardless of the layoff. So I'm not too concerned. I'm with Paul. I just don't love the field. So I feel like if nothing else, I think she just has a class edge over everybody else.
The old default to the favorite, which might be exactly the right call to make, probably around 6-5-ish. Noah, sir, you and I, of course, did not talk before the show. This is why I've got this guy on the show. Listen, we both would agree that Faze is the horse to beat. I was trying to beat her, though. I don't know. I just have a weird feeling about Faze that she might just run off the screen. And we are both going with anywho for Hector Barrios and Sadler. We already mentioned them. I think this horse is interesting. You've got her on top as well as I, 5-1 morning line. What do you like about anywho in this race?
Yeah, one of my favorite angles this summer has been horses that get the rail when they're sprinting on the dirt. And granted, that was a 5-horse field. She definitely got the brunt of that. I mean, she broke slow and she was down on the inside and then kind of tipped out, but she had just exerted so much energy at that point. And then you look back going 1 mile and 16th in the Summer Oaks, which is actually a prep for the Kentucky Oaks. She was favored against some pretty decent horses. I mean, Window Shopping's a nice horse for Mandela. And Lily Pooh, I think she shipped to Indiana when the B&B boys actually covered that card. So I saw her there. But I just think with the hot pace, she sat before, and she's got blinkers on. I feel like it's one of those situations kind of with Pretty Mischievous where you kind of just use those blinkers just to kind of stay focused in the stretch when she's getting tired. So that's what I had on anywho.
My only concern with this horse is the distance. A little bit sprinty on the dam side. And there's other speed in the race, so I'm not sure what kind of trip she's going to get, Noah. But that Summertime Oaks, by the way, guys, she was 4-5 wide the whole way. She had no chance. No chance in that race, just wide as wide can be. It was also a first run around 2 turns. If she can find a way to save ground, Noah, and get a good trip, I think she's got as good a shot as any in here. I wouldn't take too low a price. I'm just trying to beat Feza. Any other thoughts, guys? A few of you.
Real quick,
Paul,
Howard,
got the one. I've got the one. Just
Howard, real quick on the 6 before you scroll. You don't have to go back. The only thing I wanted to mention is she's had 2 sort of subpar buyers, the 54 and the 77, and the 2 back could have been the distance, but it was also her only 2 races without Lasix, her 2 races with Lasix. she ran much better, at least from a figure standpoint. And there's no Lasix in this race. So I just wanted to point that out for the viewers.
No, I mean, you do it. It's something that it's a fault of mine or whatever. I don't even look at it. It's a fair point.
I mean, it may mean
54, I
nothing
think,
because
is
it's
more
not
a
that
case
many
of just
races.
being a young
Yeah,
horse. I mean,
I agree.
So, but it's a fair point to make. Paul, 10 seconds on Justique, who actually I thought was interesting. If the pace collapses, I've got her third. She's training really well, Paul.
Yeah, agreed. Looking, if someone's going to make a move from behind, we know the Justifies run better, longer. I think has a chance to close into a hot pace if one develops for Smith.
Yeah, boy, is she working well, guys. Just clocking just 59s. I mean, I'll have to see the clocker report, but
I think she's a one-turn. I think she's a one-turn horse. I really like that horse, but I think she's a one-turn, and I think that's when, if they ever get her back to that, I think that's where she'll be at her best.
Okay, we got Jeff Wilson here. Finally, we're capping a Del Mar car. Look, we love Del Mar, but we've been a little bit centric from the East Coast just because Del Mar hasn't had a lot of big-time stake races. But definitely, this is the weekend to cover Del Mar for sure. Let's move on to race 9, guys. Go ahead and do a bunch of switching of the screens here. Let's go to the banner for race 9. Race 9 is the green flash, and wow. I mean, just throw a bunch of numbers in the air, guys, and see what comes up, because I thought this race was absolutely impossible. It's 5 furlongs. Let me go ahead and bring it on the screen here. It's 5 furlongs. It's a grade 3, 150,000 older boys. It's a field of 12 with 3 also eligibles. And in the main, look at the morning lines here, guys. In the main body of the field, you got 4-1, 5-1, 5-1, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. My goodness. The morning line favorite and very soft one is the number 8, Motorius for D'Amato and Rispoli. 2 of us are going in that direction. Noah's going with the 5. Paul's going with the 3. Actually, Noah and Paul are both going 3-5-5-3. Noah, let's go with you first. You're going with Beer Can Man for D'Amato, who's got 3 in here? 1, 2. He's got 3 in here. You're going with one of them, Beer Can Man for Vasquez.
Yeah, it's kind of a coincidence that my top 3 are all the 3 D'Amato. But with Beer Can Man, I know Beer Can Man just lost a turn on the Jets. I feel like they're kind of inseparable in this race, but I think he will kind of turn the tides in this race. He definitely needed the last one, and I feel like Beer Can Man's a weird horse. He kind of prefers to be on the outside in the clear. You see, he got the outside post at Keeneland. I think he was the 13, but there were so many scratches in that race. But I just think he prefers to be on the outside. I think he needed that race. And if you go back to that race, you already showed that replay, but it was weird. He was kind of down on the inside, and he had a gap, but for some reason he was a little bit timid to go through it until the horse in front of him kind of lugged out, and then he kind of decided to accelerate. So I feel like him being a little bit outside, maybe he can kind of get that trip, and if he swings out, he'll have that run.
Yeah, that was weird. No, I was thinking the same thing when I watched it. It was almost like he saw the hole, was like, I'm not going to go. And then all of a sudden kicked in late. It was a weird ride. It was not a weird ride. It was just a weirdly run trip for him. So it was hard to make out, but I agree with you. I think the inside is a good call, that he may not like that being in between like that.
Yeah, he's showing the 2. Well, let me freeze it. Sorry. Here's Beer Can Man is right here, right behind. The jock's about to go to the whip, and the winner turn on the Jets, who's in this race, guys, is right here. No, go ahead and you can explain what you're talking about again. Beer Can Man in behind here, trying to split.
And he's got that gap between the gray horse and the 5. But I don't know if it was the blinkers or what, but the 5 kind of drifts out there, and then for some reason he I guess he sees the truck hole, and he decides to explode, and him and Turn on the Jets are running at this same spot, but Turn on the Jets was already past him. So,
well, I'll give my opinion at the end. Let's see. The 3. Well, we talked about Turn on the Jets right there that you guys have. Paul, you've got this one on top. An improving 4-year-old who should set a great trip, you would think, with all the speed in here.
Yeah, and I agree with you about the race, Howard, but I think because of that, it's one of those races where you're either going to go very, very deep or take a stand, and I'm going to play only the 3 or 5. I think it's very likely one of those two wins this race. No disrespect to your selections, of course, but
Of course.
I'm glad to have Noah on my side.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want Noah on your side? They were good. Either one of them can absolutely win. I just don't. There don't seem to be any standouts to me here at all. Pete, my friend Pete Visco,
Yes, sir. Look at
8-6 for
this.
both of us. I mean, of all the races that you thought Pete, you and
8-6-3.
I,
We got the top 3, don't we?
yeah, of all the races you thought we'd be 1, 2, 3. I didn't think this would be the one because this is impossible. But somehow we're thinking alike here. I'll let you talk about Motorius, who's 4-1 morning line, the favorite for Demod and Rispoli. Before you talk about this horse, I will say one thing. Don't you think these connections won the Breeders' Cup turf sprint down the hill for Motorius, though?
You would think so. Look at that running. Look at those running lines. I mean, they're probably dreaming of that. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
But anyway, you like him anyway Saturday.
I do, because I mean, well, I like that last race, if nothing else. So just to start, I mean, he's just been sort of lights out this whole year. I mean, hasn't done much wrong. He lost 3 back to Lane's Way. He was the favorite, but he was a little tight. He didn't have I think his normal trip. I think he'd rather be just a touch closer, but it was still a good enough run into a relatively moderate pace coming from the back. Then he just steps up, and then from a buyer time form standpoint, you could see the improvement. And he gets a little bit of a layoff, comes back at 5.5, and runs a great race, second to Nobles. That was that was a good field. Bad Beat Brian, Arrest Me Red. I'm looking at the field now. Big Invasion was in it, who sort of was the one who was disappointing.
Yeah.
3 next out winners came out of that race. So it was a really good race. He ran great. Again, was a little bit too far back maybe, but still ran fantastic. So I just think just based on form and class, and he has a win at Del Mar, so he's familiar with the surface. We get Rispoli, more than happy to have Rispoli up. So I feel like all systems are go. And I mean, he is the favorite, so I'm not breaking any ground. But at 4-1 in a race like this, I think they're all going to play in the pick 5.
I don't want this horse too far back. My only concern is the 5 furlongs, but he has won at 5 before. I'd prefer it longer. I don't really trust this horse that much, but I do like him. I found it weird, guys, that Flavian is not on the 8 or the 5. And I'm going to talk about the jockey musical chairs here. But I just, look, it's been Pratt, and he's in town, and now he's not running Motorius. I just found that a little bit weird. I just want to point it out. Lane Way, I feel the same way. I think this horse actually, might want 6.5 even more, but he's really good too. He's off a layoff. Guys, I'm going with closers, and it might be a major mistake going 5 furlongs on the turf. It just feels like there's a lot of speed, and it feels like to me, Pete, and you agree, obviously, this 6 are both like the class of the field. Whether they get up or not at 5, I have absolutely no freaking clue, though.
No, and I think if you're, and I think the way I played mine, I'd have to look at who I went with. I tried to get horses at all the levels just in case, because again, if you have the closers, it's tough. If you have a couple of closers on top, to go with just 2 closers in a race like this is tough. So I think you have to have horses on all levels.
Noah, last thing before we move on. I don't know if you have any insight in this, Noah, just based on playing California a lot, but like I said, Flavian Pratt in this race could choose Motorius, Beer Can Man. He's on Paxa Wallop. Now, Paxa Wallop's a nice horse. In fact, guys, Paxa Wallop, 2 starts back, if you recall, this horse had a big fall campaign in California. He was 5.5-1 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. I mean, this horse is a very nice horse and well meant. And also, Noah has turf breeding and sprint turf breeding on the dam side. I just find it extremely bizarre that Pratt lands here. Noah, I know you don't have any inside intel, but what's your general thought? I just found that to be very weird.
Yeah, that is definitely very weird. I originally had this horse on my ticket, but due to budget constraints, I couldn't play a ginormous ticket, so I had to take.
Paul are used to that from Uncle Howard, so
yeah,
they know all about budget constraints.
Yeah, but like you said, this is a nice horse, and he's one of the 5 furlongs. It's just weird. That was kind of why I didn't have Motorius a little bit higher.
Yeah.
That and the fact that I think D'Amato's kind of getting this horse ready for something else. But yeah, definitely strange.
That was my thought, Pete. I mean, okay, he probably is getting him ready for something, but he could have had anyone ride this horse if he just wants to get a prep into him, right? Like, I mean, he didn't have to have Pratt on him if he just wants to get him a little spin around the track. I'm curious to hear the story behind it. I'm probably overthinking it, but it's just
Well,
weird.
I like
I
Nick's
think he could run
comment.
huge. I wouldn't be shocked if he at like 20-1, he runs like second or third. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
I like Nick's comment because he said at the bottom there, his thought was that maybe Pratt just picked up the ride late, and it could have been that other horses were sort of, you don't know who's coming, you don't know who's going to be in, you don't know who you're going to be riding. It's not like D'Amato doesn't have a relationship with Rispoli and the other jockeys he has on his three. So I try not to get too much into that, just because then you could sort of psych yourself out because you don't really know, and it could be something completely benign that has nothing to do with anything, and you're throwing a horse off your ticket for no reason.
I
did see that though. Yeah, I
was not aware of this. Richard Avalar said Rispoli got injured today and is most likely off all his mounts Saturday. That would be really unfortunate for Rispoli. I did not hear anything about that. I've been busy with work and getting ready for the pod and watching Copper Missile, so we'll have to get back to that. Guys, here we go. Pacific Classic. Last year, well, we know what happened. We don't need to show the replay. Flightline, unbelievable. Paul, didn't you try to beat Flightline, I believe, in last year's Pacific Classic?
I definitely tried to beat him in the Met Mile. So there's a good chance I went down in flames with that ship.
Yeah, well, listen.
But you know what the good news is, Howard? I didn't lose that many times betting against him.
No, you did not. That's for sure. Flightline was absolutely unbelievable. This race is fascinating. You got 3 3-year-olds, and let's see who we're going to go with in this year's Pacific Classic. Before we put that on the screen, it is $1 million. They're going 1.25 miles, of course. It's for 3-year-olds and up, and there's 3 3-year-olds in here. You see the field there of 11, and the morning line favorite is the rail horse Go Rocket Ride, Mandela Smith. They won the Haskell last time. Second choice is another 3-year-old, Arabian Night, for Baffert and Pratt, who flopped in said Haskell. And then you've got the other 3-year-old, who some people think is interesting, Skinner on the outside for Sheriffs and Barrios, 10-1. And then you have some hard knocking older horses like Defunded, Stiletto Boy, etc. Let's see who we've got here on the bottom of the screen as our picks in this year's Pacific Classic, and here they come right now. Boom. We are quite different. In fact, 2 of us have, let's see, Noah and Paul are going with Defunded. Pete is going with Arabian Night, and Howard, 20-1. What? Katona, baby. That's right. I'm going with a bomb in Katona, the 2. Pete, let's start with you. Arabian Night was the bee's knees, supposedly, and the Haskell absolutely flopped. Will be better this time in the Pacific Classic. Baffert, interestingly enough, goes against Elders here instead of other places.
Yeah, it's sort of, I don't even, this is a weird pick because I don't even have a ton of confidence in it because I feel like Arabian Night is going to be better, ultimately going a little shorter, but I'm going to take a shot with the talent. You mentioned it in the Haskell where it was off the long layoff. I'd like to see, I don't know if he was sharp enough to sort of wire that field going 1 1/8 miles. So I think this field it actually came up relatively. I don't think it's the most high quality field in the world. Go Rocket Ride looks like could be a top 3-year-old, but again, you just want to see it again. I just don't love the field. And as I was sort of ticking off horses, I was like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll give Arabian Night one more shot. But it's not with a ton of confidence, and there isn't a ton of logic behind it really, which is abnormal. You'd rather be grounded in something that you're confident in. But I just think it's a really talented horse, and I'm hoping that maybe he'll just be sharper this time out.
Well, I do appreciate your honesty about that, Pete. He is taking the lead here, and then you see Go Rocket Ride in the sort of purple and white. Really, just go past him. Relative ease might be a little too strong a statement, but I mean, he did go past him relatively easily here. Do you see Arabian Night on the lead? I mean, there's no way that Defunded is going to battle with Arabian Night because they're both Baffert. So you just hoping he wires the field, Pete? Is that your thought here?
I mean, I think because I think Defunded is sort of a horse who can get on the top, and I think going a little bit longer where it doesn't have to be like a super hot pace. But I think Defunded can sit off, and he's proven that he can come from a little bit off if he has to. So yeah, I expect Arabian Night, especially from that outside post, to try and maybe just gun it and then see what happens from there. And if he gets run over, it's not like I'm singling the horse, so I'm going to have others in the race, but.
Of course.
I feel like at least you give him the shot, you run him and get him to the front, you try and set a hot pace, try and kick away and see if you can just get away from the field. And if you can't, then there's some good horses that are going to try and run him down.
Yeah, I don't know how much pace pressure he's going to take. He could get loose. I do see that scenario.
That's the only hope, really.
Mile and a quarter though is just oof. I don't know. I've got my.
I agree. I have the note that says I think it's a touch too far, but he's done that. Bafford's done that before, unfortunately.
He has. Paul, we talked about the San Diego on this show last time, and I was completely against Defunded, and we can go back and look at it. We're not going to watch our show again, but I just didn't have a good vibe with him. It felt like a prep. He didn't run that well. It was definitely a prep. I think Defunded is going to run much better on Saturday. You and Noah have him on top. I've got him second. Pete's got him third. Paul?
Yeah, I just think he's much more dangerous at a longer distance where he can use his speed. Didn't particularly like him last time either. He's one of those horses who's a speed horse that I want going further. And,
yes.
The Arabian Night thing is, but you never know. I mean, Baffert rated National Treasure last Saturday at Saratoga, riding him in a manner in which it was physically impossible to win the race. So You never know what's going to happen. Impossible for National Treasure to win that race off the pace. But I digress. I like Defunded. As far as the field, I think it's a competitive race. I think it's a very good betting race. I think it's a very weak Grade 1 race. With all the horses in the race, they've combined for 30 starts in Grade 1s, only 5 wins. Defunded has 2 of them. I think this is a Grade 2 wearing Grade 1 clothing this particular year, which is unusual. It's usually a very good race, but it's still a very good competitive betting race.
Noah, real quick on Defunded, and then I'll let you talk about Go Rocket Ride, who Tom Espinoza from San Francisco says Maids laying an egg last week makes me wonder about the Haskell. It's a very fair point. Quickly about Defunded, Noah, and then talk about Go Rocket Ride.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Paul said about Defunded. I mean, that San Diego was 100% the time to beat him. He was going too short. He was 4 to 5. But as you guys look at this work tab is absolutely insane. And you've got Hernandez and Baffert on a $1.6 million earner. If I get anywhere close to 4 to 1, I'm going to hammer that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame you. I've got this horse second. I think he's going to lay off the speed of the 9 and maybe someone else and get a really good trip. And he's like a big time galloper, Noah. Like, he doesn't have a quick acceleration. He's just one of those really long winded, just he can run, click off those like 12-second, furlongs. And I think he's tailor made for this kind of race. If he's not tailing off, he should run big. And it doesn't look like by his works he is. I'm personally against Go Rocket Ride. He just got a great trip last time. I think he went by Arabian Knight, who was short. He's going to be a short price again. If Go Rocket Ride wins this race, I won't be shocked, but I'll be pretty damn surprised. No, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that trip last time, but I think this time I could see him sitting that same trip. Yeah. He just ran so big last time, and I feel like Mandela always thought really high of him. But the rail is definitely not ideal. I used him in my pick 5, but with a couple others, so he's got a shot, but definitely not super confident in him.
Pete and Paul, you guys want to comment real quick on Go Rocket Ride, and then I'll talk about my bomb in this race.
Good, Pete.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I sort of agree. I basically agree with what Noah said, so I'm not too far off. I think though you almost have to include him because he's still an unknown a bit, and if he takes another step forward, he could just be really good. And good horses find a way to make their own trip.
Candy Ride. I actually have a classic, right, Paul? Or no? I'm
what's
pretty
that?
Sure he did. I think Candy Ride won the Pacific Classic at one point. I
I
have to look back on it.
believe Candy
I think
Ride
so.
did.
Why are we guessing when I can just click and
Yes, he did. Written by Julie
look?
Crone.
Julie Crone in 2003. Love Julie Crone. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah,
real quick.
I liked Go Rocket Ride a little bit last time in the Haskell at
You
12-1.
You did.
I think that this is, if he's the favorite in here, this is a horse you're supposed to try to beat as the favorite in a race like this. I agree with Noah that he could sit a good trip, but this big of a field with obviously everyone's outside of him, which means all the speed's outside of him. It could get crowded. Again, I like the horse in general. I wish they would have shipped him across the country to run in the premier summer 3-year-old race. They didn't, which pisses me off, which is going to be inclined to bet against him. Not that he was going to win, but it would have been nice to see. Anyway, I just think value-wise, 12-1 last time, I like a lot. If he's 2-1, 5-2 this time, I think you're supposed to try to beat him.
By the way, Mandel is 0 for 16 in grade 1 races at Del Mar, but if you listen to Paul and this is basically a grade 2, then maybe that doesn't matter. So it doesn't, you can throw that out.
Somehow I don't think the stats would know that.
Yeah, I don't know if they agree
Guys,
with that, but you never know.
here's my deal, okay? And maybe I'm just completely off the rails here. But let me
Yeah, you are.
You are.
Well, I am. That's okay. I don't like Arabian Night. I could be wrong. I'm not in love with Go Rocket Ride in this situation. I could be wrong. Skinner is interesting, but I think he's still a little bit goofy, and I took a look at him. I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't love the 3-year-olds in this race, in this spot. Okay? So then I went to the older horses. Defunded is, I think, is very logical here, and I probably should have gone 5-2. But you know what, guys? This horse is getting better, and he's only 4 years old, and I'm not going to show replays, but I love the way he won 2-back. I think, Pete, you and I both had this horse 2-back, or I remember talking about this horse 2-back because he was in a weird spot and he had to wait, and then he blew by Flying Drummer, who was actually a decent Baffert. And then last time he won that race very easily, up closer to the pace than he usually is. I know it was 1.70 miles. I know it was Pleasanton. I get it, guys. I mean, how much worse really is this horse than the rest of the field? If he gets a good trip, he's been working very well. His last work, by the way, guys, I'll say this. I'll bring us all on screen. His last work, as I watched on XBTV, they actually worked him, guys, out of the chute that they run the Pacific Classic starting at. So basically, they have the gate at the same position where they're going to have the gate for the Pacific Classic. And he broke from there, ran through that very long, stretch in the first turn. He looked fantastic. So what? Maybe he's a few points lower? Guys, I don't see why he can't run big here if he gets the right trip. The 1.25 miles is my only concern, and it's a valid concern. And maybe this is too much, but no one really blows me away. He's getting better. Fresu Noah is actually really good jockey and has had I think he won 7 or 8 races last week. This guy is very capable. He's going to be a big price. I don't know. I think I'm going with Katona to at least run somewhere in the money. I think he's a little bit interesting. Richard Avalar said that Keita Sormo, your guy, Noah, Keita Sormo talked a lot about the source of San Anita. I'm assuming in a positive way. I don't know. I'm going with a little bit of price. Guys, we got about 5 minutes left to get to Jim Miller, then quickly go through our pick 5. So let's go very quickly through the last race. I go ahead and take the banners off the screen. There's race 11 on the screen. Another very tough race, I thought, guys. Very tough. The Del Mar Handicap, it's the distance race, 300,000, 1 3/8, grade 2. I thought it was a pretty weak field. Next week, by the way, Kentucky Downs is a $1.7 million distance race. So if you're wondering where all the real good, maybe East Coast horses or Midwest horses, they're going to that race, guys. The Kentucky Downs, $1.7 million race next week. There's our picks. There's the field. It's a field of, it's 1 3/8, field of 11. It's a 3-turn race. Gold Phoenix, D'Amato, Juan Hernandez, Little Red Feather, owned. Let's go to you, Noah. You're going to go with Awfully Naughty for McCarthy and Rispoli. Although it might not be Rispoli. I will have to see.
Yeah, I when I was looking at the PPs, I just thought that this horse was the best kind of turf marathoner. He ran back-to-back Beyer tops in the Whittingham and the San Luis Rey. And then I think Planetario just had everything go his way that last time and ended up beating him by 4 lengths, which looks like a lot on paper, but I feel like these horses are pretty close. I'm hoping that Rispoli stays on because I think, Rispoli's getting to know this horse real well. And I just think he's the most talented out of these horses.
Awfully Naughty is run very well. Here's my thing. This horse can win. I've got him second, Noah. I don't, actually he was with Planetario. I was going to question his class, but I've got Planetario, so scratch what I was going to say. I think these are the 2 best horses. I agree with you, Noah. I think they're the 2 best distance horses. I think Awfully Naughty is actually better in mile 3/8, and I'm worried that my top choice wants to go even longer. But I think it's probably one of these 2 if they run well. Pete disagrees, though. He's going to go with Little Red Feather and Billy Koch and Juan Hernandez, Gold Phoenix, who is run at the distance, but is he not better a little bit shorter, Pete? That's my main question. I like this horse. I've got him third. He can definitely win.
Yeah, I think you might be right, but I mean, he did win this race last year, so it's not like he can't win going this distance. He's weird because he does sort of bounce around from distances. Actually, I just love this horse, and he's sort of cool. A personal favorite of mine. So I generally have him when he runs. So I'm not going to not include him. The thing that does concern me, he never strings together 2 straight wins. So that concerned me because it's I mean, it's weird because he goes from winning to, he doesn't even like contend. Sometimes he'll sort of run a little bit off the board, but you get that when you have a horse coming from behind. Sometimes your pace compromised. So there's not a ton of pace in this race from what I can tell. But again, he's just a horse that I can't leave off my ticket. I just think he's a really hard knocker. And again, I'm a sucker for the defending champ in races. Sometimes he's 2 for 3 at Del Mar, 3 for 3 in the money. He's won, like I said, he's won at the distance, even if it's not his best. So,
I've got Planetario. I'm concerned with these outside posts a little bit. It's a fairly short run to that first turn. There's not a lot of speed. I'm afraid like the 9-10 could both be like hung out in the first turn. That might make a difference. I've got Planetario. I think he's coming into his own for Mandela. I think they figured this horse out.
Real quick on this one. The weird thing was in that United Nations, which it looked like a weird race when Therapist won it because he was a pretty good surprise. 3 runners have come out of that race so far, and they've all run poorly. So that was one concern I had a little bit with the 9, even though he's run against Awfully Naughty. If you like Awfully Naughty, which I do as well, then he's still right there.
It was a weak United Nations. I don't love this horse. I've got him on top, but I just didn't see a lot of other great options. Paul, you have the last say here. You did find another option. I looked at this horse real closely, Paul. I mean, real closely. I didn't love his works. He was, like I said earlier, he's getting outworked by, I'm missing the name now, the horse earlier that we talked about, the 9 horse in the earlier race. But boy, this horse had some serious back class. I mean, he was losing the race that he at Lingfield. This Algiers is a serious group 2 horse. So he was facing some really good horses earlier. I have no idea why Sadler decided to put him on the dirt. He was working well, Paul. I guess that's why. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be questioning Sadler, but it was just weird.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, Howard. I have no idea what they were thinking. Unless they were, they were clearly might have been thinking Pacific Classic since they ran in the prep.
Yes, yeah.
But you talked about the distance. This horse has run just about the distance, 1 mile and 5/16 on the Saudi Cup card.
Right.
Ran 4th. As you said, back class. I just think if you didn't have those 2 dirt races in there and you were just betting them off the overseas form, he's maybe 5-2, 3-1, and now he's whatever he is, 6-1. So I think he's a sneaky price play here. I kind of think I'm starting to like this horse a lot.
This is the one I'm worried about. I just didn't love his works, and maybe he's just not as good as he was last year. But I almost wish Paul, that he was just off the boat and running in this race and like never ran those dirt races, you know what I mean? Then I'd really love him. So I don't know. I'm very worried that this horse is going to win. I'm using him, but this is the interesting one. Guys, let's go through our pick fives as we got Jim now waiting in the bullpen. We're going to do this very quickly. I'm going to take this off the screen. It's just an incredible sequence. Guys, take about 30 seconds if you may. I'll read them, and then you can just make 1 point about your ticket. Pete, we're going to have you go first. Pete's 1348 with 49 with 3568 with 159 with 410, $96.
Yeah, nothing too overly complicated. There were a couple of races I wanted to go deep, the first and third leg. The second leg, I went with Feza, but I also went with Coffee in Bed, the 4, who's about 12 to 1.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about that horse, but I figured if we can beat Feza, I like to do it with a price. And then in that last leg too, Gold Phoenix, and I like that 4 with you, Paul. I really think I think they're potentially could have. I think that horse could just be the best horse. I agree, based off that international form. Lost to Mostadef in the last race too. You didn't even mention that, and he just beat Paddington pretty handily. Right. So that class coming over is crazy. So it's just a weird scenario.
Yeah, for sure. He could fire big. Paul, you're going 1457 with 19 with 35 with 1579 with 4910 for $96.
Yeah, the strategy was to go narrow, as you can see in those 2 legs. I can't single Phaser, so I had to go one other. I used the Sheriff's horse on the rail. As we talked about the 9th race, wide open race. So again, couldn't get myself to single, but went with just the 2, and then spread out pretty good in the Pacific Classic. I think I'm 4 deep there. And then end it with 3 deep, and what I think is also a fairly wide open finale.
No doubt, very very tough. I mean, it's just hard to single anyone in this sequence. I guess FaZe is gonna be the most likely single, but I mean, she really isn't that much better than a lot of them in there, at least by the numbers. So it's gonna be interesting. Noah, here we go. Very right. I'll tell you what, you guys want to make some money. Be ready right this time because, like I said, there you go, Paul. Be ready. Noah is singling. Ballsy, man. I love it. Singling 6-1 Balnikov to start this pick 5. And hey, Noah, if you don't hit it, you just play the old pick 4, right? He's going 5 with 6-9, with 3-5, 6-8-9, with 1-3-5-9, with 2-6-9-10. So Noah will take a 5-9-9-9-9, I'm sure. $80, Noah. Singling Balnikov, you just got to take a stand somewhere, and that's where you're going to do it.
Yeah, I'm just throwing my chips in the pot with Balnikov, and if he doesn't get it done, like you said, I'll just play the pick 4. In race 8, I've got Feza and Anywho. I just think Anywho's the most likely to try and beat Feza. In the 9th race, I originally had 8, and I had to cut it down to 5. I think that race is just absolutely wide open.
That's the 5 furlong turf sprint, everyone.
Yeah, the Green Flash. And then in the Pacific Classic, I've got the 2 Baffords. I've got Go Rocket Ride, and then I threw in Stiletto Boy because I'm not going to get beat by DeSormo. And then in the last leg, I've got my top 3 were 6, 9, and 10. And we didn't mention the 2, but I threw him in because I think he could be Lone Speed.
Matt Miller, by the way, if anyone's got any thoughts on race 6, you can throw them out there and when I'm done with mine. I think Matt's looking to play a double, guys. I've got a feeling there. No, I certainly don't need my advice, but I just want to say one thing. The way you were talking about defunded, maybe you single defunded and go deeper in the first leg, just the way that you were talking. I'm not saying that's what I would do, but just the way you were speaking of defunded, maybe that would be a good signal for you. I don't know, something to consider. And, unless you just obviously love Balnikov, but I love your ticket. It's really good. Here's my ticket, and then we'll bring on Jim here. My ticket, where the hell is my ticket? Here it is. That's not my ticket. I thought oh, you know what? It's fine. It shouldn't.
Isn't it impressive, Noah, coming on the flagship show? It's really impressive, right?
I have it as a ticker. That was the problem.
I thought this was supposed to be the major leagues.
Yeah. We're the old men, though, so the later it gets, the more off kilter we tend to get.
I'm going 1, 4, 5, 8, 9 with 1, 6, 9 with 3, 6, 8 with 1, 2, 5, 11 with 9. I'm singling Planetario, and I just want to say for everyone out there, I don't love this horse, but I had to budget my ticket, and I just think I'm not in love with Gold Phoenix on Saturday. I'm not sure about the distance and Miss the Cut. I don't like the replays of a watch of the work. So to me, it's either Awfully Naughty or Planetario, and I can't double my ticket. So I just took a stand. I've got some interesting bombs in there. If this thing hits, I'm going to make a boatload of money. So there's and I've got, of course, Katona in there, along with Skinner, actually, and Defunded and Go Rocket Ride. Even though I don't love them, I have respect for Mandela. There's my pick 5. Guys, it's been a lot of fun. It's going to be an absolutely fascinating day of racing at Del Mar for the Pacific Classic. Pete Visco, Paul Halloran, Noah, Maher, you guys did awesome. Noah, nice job, young man, on your main voyage. We look forward to having you on again on this show. And, of course, check out Noah on Bet and Boozin' Wednesday nights. Let's bring on Jim Miller real quick. Jim Miller from Hawthorne Racecourse. Jim, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm telling you guys that it's a great card at Del Mar this weekend. I was looking through it as well. I love the field size. That's something that you don't see a whole lot usually in the races out on the West Coast. So great fields up and down. It's a tremendous card. If any of your tickets hit, they're going to pay well because there just are no standout horses really throughout the sequence. So all of you have great tickets, but the best one's going to be whatever one that hits.
Jim, I continue to try to develop young talent, and the young man down there to your right, who's from California and goes to the University of Kentucky, by the way, in Lexington, has some aspirations to be in the horse racing business. No, I should really give you Jim Miller's contact info because he came on air not too much. Actually, I think younger than you are right now, Noah. So Jim Miller's a great story, Noah, and a real success to this big business. And Jim, again, I think it's crucial that we bring young people into this game. And Noah's another example of one of our Ben Boozin guys that does that.
That's awesome. Yes. So Noah, get my contact info from Howard. I'll definitely help you out in whatever way I can. It's one thing that I've really liked to do over the course of the years. I've gotten a lot of people kind of started on the broadcasting end of things. Katie Mickelay, who actually did a lot of work at Presque Isle and Keeneland, started out at Hawthorne, and Nancy Holthus, who does the work over at Oaklawn. I got her started at Oaklawn. Alyssa Ali, who did a lot of the work at Arlington Park. She came on with me when she was 18 years old at Hawthorne learning, and it's just one of the things where you want to get people involved and you want to see them do great things. So I'm perfectly happy here in the Chicagoland area, but for those that want to spread their wings and have the ability to, I'm happy to help as well.
And Jim, last thing before I let these guys go, Noah had some big scores this summer. Last week, hello, Jim, you tipped out a horse on this show. You want to tell Noah real quick what happened last week on this show?
Gabriella Attack was the name of the horse. It was one of those races where I didn't like the race. It was a bottom level maiden claimer. You saw a few signs of life, but the biggest sign that I saw with this horse was a rider change from a guy who's only ridden a handful of races at Hawthorne to the leading jock of the meet. And this was a horse that just kind of settled back in a slow race, gave the horse a great trip, and the horse rallied, won at 27-1. So it was really a nice winner there for the part of the late pick 4. We still missed the ticket, though. But we actually had 2 good winners in that sequence because we had a $12 winner to close out the card, too.
Unbelievable. Great job. Well, I'll let these guys go. Jim, you're going to stay on. Obviously, we're going to talk about closing weekend at Hawthorne. Pete, Paul, and Noah, thanks, Sly. Have a great night. Good luck on Saturday, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, Jim, here we go. Let me put it this way here. Richard Avalar, nice comment. Congrats on your daughter going to college. Very exciting. Your son's going to be is a junior, I believe. Is that right, in high school?
My son's a junior. Yeah, my daughter is a cross-country runner for Winona State College. They're a Division II college. Credit to them. The first national rankings came out, and they're ranked number 5 in the nation. So it's one of the things where she's a part of a good program, learning from some great runners. They have a young lady who could end up being the national champion this year as a part of their team. So that's really cool. And it's one of those things where it's just I'm excited. I'm actually going to get up bright and early tomorrow, and I'm going to run up there and see her for a couple of days because I haven't seen her since sending her off to school. So see her before coming back for the Sunday card at Hawthorne.
Well, you said you were going to run up there. You're actually probably good enough shape to actually run up there, but I think we all know what you're saying. Before we talk about the closing weekend at Hawthorne and anything else, and I don't mean to get into the family business, but does she have a chance to be one of the, start right away as a freshman and be in the top 4 or 5, or is she sort of going to be more behind the scenes and learn the college running game, so to speak? What's the vibe there with your daughter?
It's interesting because, of course, she has high hopes. The great thing is she's on a team that is returning all of their top 7 runners from last year. So you learn while trying to compete at the same time. So
Of
that's the
course.
really cool thing is you have big dreams, you have big aspirations, and she's already seen great improvement since coming over. But it's one of those things where the little things that you learn for people that don't know that much about running. Cross country races in college for the females are 6 kilometers, so 3.7 miles. To get ready for those 6-kilometer races, my daughter right now is running about 50 miles a week. So it's one of those things for anybody that
Wow.
doesn't know. Running's hard. I tell her running's hard all the time, but she loves it. It's a great campus. It's a great program. So she's very happy where she is.
I don't think I've run 50 miles in my life. I used to. I'm a little heavier now than I used to because of back injuries and I'm getting old and blah blah blah. I used to actually be a pretty good athlete, but I was a sprinter. I was not a long distance guy. But anyway, speaking of sprinting, Jim, we're sprinting to the end of Hawthorne. How about that? Not a bad TV transition.
Nice job.
We are sprinting to the end of the meet of Hawthorne. It's been a great meet. I have some things I want to say to you at the very end, just in general in closing. But let's talk about the late pick 4 Sunday. Again, this is Sunday, late pick 4. Scrolling on the bottom of the screen. And if you're thinking about, I'll just leave the show and go on to my business, you're missing out, people, because Jim Miller can give out tickets and prices as we talked about. Late pick 4 Sunday. Now the meet closes Monday, correct? On Labor Day?
Yep, 9-race card on Monday, correct.
Okay, so this is the penultimate card at Hawthorne for the 2023 Thoroughbred meet. We'll talk about the next meet coming up too. You see scrolling on the bottom of the screen is picks, and I have the PPs also, Jim. Let me bring up a few things here. Give me a second. Okay, here's race 5. It's a main special weight. The babies are out. 2-year-olds, field of 10. Is this open company? Nice purse, almost 40,000 in the kitty. Moorline favorite is the number 6. What a great name, Neon Dion, a Pennsylvania bred for Ravelli and Rodriguez. And you're going with the 3 though, King Anthony for Hernandez and Eskin, a little bit of a price.
And here's what's interesting, which I'm really kind of happy to see. These same connections, Antonio Donato and Armando Hernandez, owner trainer, debuted with a first-timer today, a 2-year-old, and it was a filly, and she was victorious, and she took action early, and this horse had basically the same workout pattern going in as what the filly did today, so make sure you go back and check that out, but there was a 2-year-old filly race today. Here's the thing, this owner, Antonio Donato, has been in the game in Illinois for a long time, but a lot of time we kind of on the lower claiming routes and that, and then he said, I'm just going to jump in. And what he did was he took a lot of these horses that were the higher level claimers in Kentucky, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, claiming these horses, bringing over to Hawthorne, winning the optional 50s, winning the open allowance. He just want to stay the horse that he had claimed 35,000. Now he's dabbling in with some of the youngsters, and you're getting some of these 2-year-olds that are coming along. This one, a $25,000 OBS purchase, but they're going in there always with the intent to win. Armando Hernandez has had a very good meet. And when you have Ravelli, you have Owen Hardy in the spot, some of those type of guys, a couple from the barn of Hugh Robertson. This is a field where there's the potential to maybe catch a little bit of a price, and I think that price could come with King Anthony.
And Neon Dion was in that race where you liked the block, right, a few weeks ago, and now they're running him back.
Tough little nut,
quickly.
Right. Yeah, and the thing that was interesting was that race, Ravelli had 2 in there, and he thought the other one of his 2 was actually going to be the faster one, and Neon Dion outkicked that one. So a little bit interesting there, but they're moving to the dirt with this one today. I think Neon Dion takes a lot of action. You can try to beat that horse.
He does. I mean, this might be the time to beat a Ravelli on the dirt with a 2-year-old. Let's go to the next race here. You see, of course, scrolling. Next race, race 6. Hard Knockers, 20 claimers. They're going 1 mile on the turf. By the way, the weather in Chicago it's going to be absolutely gorgeous all weekend. It's actually pretty hot coming up. Not so hot that you're going to have to back up the post times, I don't think, but it is going to be warm and dry. The turf has been playing very firm and fast lately, just to let everyone know. Morning favorite here is the number 2, Command Point, a New York bred actually for Block. And there's Esquivel again. You're going to go with Prancy Pants for Francisco Reyes at 4-1. I'm not overly familiar with this trainer. I apologize about that, Jim.
John Whitauer was typically a guy that was down at Fairmount Park with a small string of horses. He started to pick up more horses this meet, and he's had an absolutely tremendous meet. And Prancy Pants, look at the turnaround for this horse since moving over to his barn at the start of the meet. Because all of a sudden, see that race on April the 2nd? That was a decent race. But then all of a sudden it's victory,
Right.
victory, victory, second, third, win. And that last ride, that race that Frank Reyes rode in that last start, that was against Open Allowance Company. The horse wasn't actually in the position where it wanted to be. It settled back off the pace a little bit, full of run late, was able to rally for the victory. But this is one of the horses that's completely turned things around. 100,000 in earnings on the year for the Illinois bred horse. And every time just kind of gets dismissed, aside from that one race where it was even money. But even last out, 16-1. Command Point's probably going to be 8-5 or 9-5 in here. Prancy Pants has already beaten Command Point on the meet, and we'll see if it can turn the tables once again.
I have a question that always, there's Command Point there. I have a question that always comes to mind at the end of meets, and I want to get your real quick feeling here. Sometimes I think these trainers and owners try to squeeze the lemon a little bit too much at the end of the meet. They want to get that one more race into these horses for purse, for other reasons. She came back in only, 2 weeks and won last time with a career top. Now she's coming back in 9-10 days as an 8-year-old. Jim, I'm not saying she can't win. I like your pick. I'm just bringing this up for the viewers. Any concern there?
It's something that you definitely do have to look to. And it's something that I was curious to see was going to happen at the end of the meet too. And it didn't happen as much as you normally would see when we were ending in December and going on a 3-month hiatus. These horses are going to their next destination. Some are going to wait and head off to Fairgrounds. Some are going to run at Horseshoe Indianapolis. Some are going to go up to Canterbury for a little bit. So look to other spots where they can run and try to get those races in. So a horse like Prancy Pants, the main reason they're back in here is because they are Illinois bred. This is an open claiming race, so they have a chance to race for that Illinois bonus. And when you've had that good of a meet, go right back in and try to get it once again.
Yeah, I think that's actually an excellent point. This is not like they're going to be off for 3 months and they're going to go other spots. So that's actually a very, very interesting point. I didn't really quite think that through, so I'm glad you said that. Next race 7, penultimate leg of the pick 4, of course. This is starter optional allowance, 16,000 down to 7,500. That's a pretty big spread, actually. You don't usually see that kind of a spread. That'd be another conversation for another day. But anyway, it's an 8-horse field. Morning favorite, Long Tall Woman, with Esquivel and Hernandez. You're going with First Kitten, Miraz, and Centeno 9-2.
Yeah, the thing about Long Tall Woman, this is a horse that just has been solid this year, but not as dominant as she's been in the past. She's made 7 starts on the year. She's hit the board in all 7 of those races, but only one of them has been a victory. And a lot of these horses have been knocking heads. You see the names there: San Marita, First Kitten, Princess Stella, First Kitten, Seaward. Long Tall Woman's always there. She's an ATM, but it's just one of those where I think you can try to find a little bit more of a price. So you go to the 7-horse First Kitten, and again, you find a horse that seems to be in really solid form. Now, that last out was a race that was slated for the turf. This horse didn't want to really be on the turf that day. They were hoping that race was going to come off, and it did, and everything set up perfectly. But that was a pretty good field for the optional 40 there. Race Day Attire, the horse that finished second in that race, won an open allowance earlier on in the meet. Miss Melody's been pretty solid too, and First Kitten just kind of has that versatility. Can rate off the pace and run on, can go up and show speed if needed. Antonio Miraz, the trainer, has had a tremendous meet, really kind of done it under the radar. He's second in the trainer standings behind Larry Ravelli. That's how good of a meet he's had. He's winning at a 24% clip and doing it with horses like this. And a lot of times these horses are sitting there at 7-2, 4-1, 9-2. You're looking at $10, $11 winners type of race horses. And this is another one of those.
Yeah, interesting that, it's got a lot of turf breeding on the dam side, but it's actually 0 for 5 on turf. So obviously this is a better dirt horse, and flat out's obviously a dirt sire on the male side. So interesting, very interesting breeding there. And this horse is in excellent form. Let's go to the last race of the last Sunday, the late pick 4. Of course, we have Jim Miller, director of racing at Hawthorne Racecourse. Let me go ahead and bring up the last race of the day on Sunday, claiming 7,500 on the turf, 5.5 furlongs, a big field of 10, and a big morning line favorite in the number 6 Lyrical Poet for Wesley Ward and Rodriguez. But I'll tell you what, you're trying to beat a lot of chalks, which I like, Jim. Of course, you're the one that makes the morning line. So you're going with X Prompt, bred in France, Campbell and Olaf Hernandez 4-1.
All right. When you pull up the past performances, Howard, look at the 6-horse Lyrical Poet in here, and just I'm so confused as to why the horse is in this race. This is a horse that came off a long layoff into that last out. I get that. But ran a good race for 32,000 at Saratoga. You got beaten a half length at 7-2. Why are you in for 7,500 at Hawthorne? That's the thing that scares me. Did something happen from that long layoff into that spot? Are you dropping and trying to scare people off? Are you looking for a purse and hoping to get claimed? There's just something that just seems so odd to me that you either have to single a horse. I mean, I picked a third in here, but I left it off my ticket. I'm just saying it's kind of all or nothing. It's just so weird why this horse is in this race.
Just totally. I mean, one extremely slow work at Keeneland. Since is there any other early speed in this race, Jim?
Yeah. There's some speed on the outside. Dragon Drew is one of those that can
not
show
that
some
slow.
speed.
I mean, he has no chance. But
but Greeley's Ice,
obviously.
Greeley's Ice keeps things honest. Archer keeps things honest. Dragon Drew as well. It's something just seems odd, and I don't know what it is. So I went to these horses that are kind of more of your proven turf horses. X-Prompt, Dragon Drew. These are horses that both reel back quickly. They both raced on August the 23rd. Right. That was a weird race. That was one of those races that we ran under the lights that night. It was a 13-horse field that ended up scratching down to 4. A lot of horses scratched because of the heat. Well, X-Prompt's a horse that typically wants to come from out of it. When there's a 4-horse race, you have to ride it completely differently. Sure. And the rider put the horse into the race and just ended up chasing Dragon Drew the whole way around. And Dragon Drew is right back in here as well, too. But X-Prompt gets so much more pace to chase. Should come running late. Dragon Drew, I can tell you, the Sable Escano, the whole length of the stretch, was looking for X-Prompt in that last spot, waiting for him to come, and the horse just wasn't able to run by, and a lot of it was due to the 4-horse field. But these are two legitimate turf sprinters who are posting speed figures just as good as Lyrical Poet. But again, Lyrical Poet, Wesley Ward, huge class drop. The horse is going to take a ton of action, but just so odd that the horse finds this spot on the second day to closing day.
I have to do my deep dive, which I'm not prepared to do tonight, so apologize to the viewers for Hawthorne. Just quick glance, I love this 8-horse, Jim, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm completely against Lyrical Poet. You've got what, 8-5 on this horse,
and it might go shorter.
I think this horse probably will be shorter. I mean, You see a lot of people love the ones, right, Jim? 1-1-1 just ran PLC Saratoga. People think, second off the layoff is going to improve, but again, this is red flag city all over the place, as we say in the handicapping world, right, Jim?
You don't go from a third place finish for 32 at Saratoga to a 7,500 at Hawthorne unless there's a question mark somewhere. If the horse goes off and wins by 10, fine. But
the only thing I will say, I mean, he's got a lot of extremely high quality runners, and I don't want to sound disrespectful. This is not a horse they need in their barn. He actually owns the horse, I can see also. So, he's got other horses to worry about, like prepping for Breeders' Cup races. So from that standpoint, I understand it. But other than that, he just wants to get rid of the horse. It's very obvious.
Sure. And somebody, I think there's going to be a whole lot of claims in for this racehorse, because here's the thing too. All of a sudden you run this race, you're starter eligible. So you get this horse and you want to protect the racehorse, you're protected for 2 years. So if the horse is solid and you go in there and claim, and a lot of people are going to be claiming, we'll see whoever gets it will be coming out with a horse that's starter eligible after that.
Jim, I'll check my pockets. I might have 37.50. You got 37.50?
I can find it.
We'll split this horse. What do you think?
Hey, I've been in the horse ownership business before. Someday I'll get back in again.
All right, maybe we'll put in a claim. We'll see. Although I can't, because I'm not officially an Illinois owner. But you can pull some strings.
I can't either. I'm director of racing.
All right, your pick 4, Jim, at the bottom of the screen. $24 ticket. 3-5-6-8 with 2-5 with 1-4-7 with 8-9. Just completely tossing out the ward. I like it. $24.
And you look at the ticket. I mean, the 2-year-old race is going to be the toughest of the race, just because of the unknowns in there. I'm flattered a little bit more about King Anthony in the 2-year-old race because of how the Hernandez runner ran today. And that's a horse that I laid at 8-1. And I think you might get 8-1 on that horse. The second leg, it comes down to Prancy Pants. Prancy Pants is a horse that I think gets a good trip there. Command Point has been very solid. So I could see those two being right there at the wire. It's the 3 logical horses that have been duking it out in the starter race all year long in race number 7. San Marita, Long Tall Woman, First Kitten. And then again, let's try to beat the 7-5 in the last leg. If you do, either of these horses are going to be $10, $11 horses, and you get a nice return for your ticket.
Absolutely. You definitely get paid. And Robert Rivers knew. Thank you, Kyle, for talking to Robert in the chat. Robert, thanks for joining us. We did exclusively cover Del Mar the first hour of the show. Please go back and watch it or listen to it, and you can hear all about Del Mar this Saturday. Jim, we got a few more minutes here,
Yep.
and I would be remiss if I didn't say a few things. First of all, before I say my goodbyes to you for the thoroughbred season, let's talk about what's happening at Hawthorne anyway, coming up pretty soon, and also what you've
Yeah.
been doing downstate recently, because we just completely skipped that. No disrespect, but
No.
talk about what's been going on downstate Illinois with you specifically, and then what's coming up here soon after the thoroughbred meet closes.
Well, one of my many jobs, and people talk about how nobody in racing has just one job. You have 5 jobs, 10 jobs, whatever it is. One of my many duties at Hawthorne, aside from director of racing on the thoroughbred end, I'm the general manager of harness racing at the Illinois State Fair in Springfield and DuQuoin. So the way my schedule has looked the last week or so was I did your podcast last Thursday. Then after that on Friday, I was headed down to Springfield. And then I was back up here. And then Sunday, I was at Hawthorne for live racing on Sunday. Then Monday, I drove down to DuQuoin, Illinois, which for those in our area, it's about 5 hours south of where we're at. We had harness races at DuQuoin. So there were 16 harness races on Monday, 15 of them on Tuesday. After Tuesday's races, hopped in the car, drove back home. Hawthorne Wednesday, Hawthorne Thursday, and then going to go see my kid for a couple of days and then be back for Hawthorne. But it's one of those things where in Illinois, the way the racing scene has shifted over the course of the last few years, and it's sad to say, but 20 years ago, there were 5 racetracks in upstate Illinois. You had Sportsman's Arlington and Hawthorne on the thoroughbred end, Maywood and Balmoral on the standardbred end. Now there's one. So it's Hawthorne handling both breeds. You have thoroughbred racing, you have standardbred racing, and there's not enough days in the calendar to get both breeds raced. So we do race at the state fairs. We host races at the Illinois State Fairgrounds in Springfield and doing everything we can to keep both of the breeds alive. The one thing it does do, though, that benefits us is you get that chance to strip the racetrack up, Howard, and you get the chance to check the base of the racetrack. And we're the only track in the United States that does this. But when you do the track conversion, you know your base is perfectly sound, perfectly even. It has to be to run a harness horse over it. I wish other racetracks would actually do it more often, but it's one of the things that we do, and it's expensive. It's a couple $100,000 to do so, but when you're trying to keep both breeds alive, you do everything you can.
And talk about the harness racing schedule
Yep.
at Hawthorne. I used to play harness a lot. I don't play quite as much anymore because I'm obviously deep dive into the podcast, but I do play. I grew up a harness player. I loved betting harness, especially in Chicago. And Hawthorne's got a nice long stretch, of course,
Oh, yeah.
where these guys in the sulky can wait. And there's always like a lot of blanket finishes at Hawthorne. It's very exciting and high quality harness racing. Talk very briefly when people can watch harness racing in Hawthorne this fall.
Yeah, so harness racing is actually starting up on September the 9th. So it's weird. We get done with the 4th on thoroughbreds. After that last race crosses the wire, our track man will be out there with the blade, pulling dirt up like immediately, because you have 72 hours to turn over this racetrack. And it's a lot of dirt that has to be removed, 8 barns that have to be cleaned out and reset for horses and bringing horses in. But the harness racing is going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That first Sunday card is 18 races. So we're having a 4:30 post because there was a cancellation at Springfield and it was all their championship races. All 18 come to Hawthorne. So we're going to start about 4:30. We're going to get done about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night and have 18 parimutuel races on Sunday the 10th. But it's one of those things. First post 7:10 most nights. But when you have that early night, we're going to be a little bit earlier. We're going to be racing harness through the end of the year. And then everybody will find out the 3rd week of September what our racing schedule is for next year. I can tell you this, it's going to be expanded once again, which is a good thing in Illinois, but we're very busy at Hawthorne for sure.
I'm very excited to see those dates. Jim, let me just say in closing a few quick things. We'll let you go. First of all, Hawthorne Racecourse has been a fantastic sponsor of this podcast all year long during the thoroughbred season. And Jim, you've done yeoman's work. I know you're extremely busy, and we really appreciate all the time and the insight that you've given this podcast on not only Thursday nights, but also occasionally on Wednesday nights. And just for me personally, I want to thank you for the hospitality you've given this show, and you've given to me as I had an opportunity to be at Hawthorne and be on air and be with you and got to know you very well. I can see you're a friend of mine. I really do appreciate it. And I will say that as long as Hawthorne will have us, this podcast will continue to support family-run tracks like Hawthorne Racecourse. And I am very excited to see what the future holds for Hawthorne. I know there's big plans in the works that we don't have to talk about right now, but hopefully the future is very bright at Hawthorne, and there's bigger and better days ahead at Hawthorne Racecourse, and also for this podcast as well.
Well, I can tell you this. First off, thank you. Thanks to Paul. Thanks to Pete. Just getting to know everybody and talking to everybody, and just the learning too. I mean, there's so much knowledge that comes in, which is really cool. It's great having the viewership too, because these are horse fans and horse players, and to get the support of Hawthorne and to see the support. We tried something new at the start of this meet, doing the 12% takeout and win, play, show wagering. Carried it the entire meet. We're carrying that onto our harness season 2, and people just aren't doing that. They're not lowering takeout. Everybody's raising it. We lowered it because we wanted to give something back to the fans as well. So I'm happy to see that continuing also. I know we're going to be back seeing you on air when the thoroughbreds come again. And man, hopefully things are going to be wild, crazy, and things are going to be going little nuts in Illinois by the time that we get back. But it's something that, what I think is cool though is seeing you guys and seeing Kyle out at the different events and the handicap.
Yeah,
just to have everybody's just fun enough to talk about racing, and that's one of the most important things. And to all these great circuits, and I think you guys should support Hawthorne as well. And we're always welcome out there anytime. And hopefully we get Paul.
Yeah, you're freezing up a little bit. Just perfect way to end the Europeans. They're freezing up. Yeah, great times at the OTBs and the pool parties, and Dakota and Rhonda, just everyone involved. And again, for someone like myself who would like to break into the business on the TV end relatively soon, as I'm retiring from teaching, the next few years or whatever, those opportunities don't come along too often. And I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be on air with you, and hopefully many times in the future. And we've had many people on the show, as you know, Jim, like Jim Pilar's, Tom Espinoza, who've come on and said, you know what, I play Hawthorne now. And that is exactly why we have you and other people from Hawthorne on the show. So without further ado, we'll just go ahead and close out the show. Jim, it's been awesome. Good luck with the with your daughter, with your son in high school, with the all the harness meet, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. Let's have a beverage, sometime the next few months as well.
For sure.
Maybe over a big race day or whatnot. We'll be in touch. So we'll end the show right now. Let me take the banner off the screen. Look below. We've got Saratoga today, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday special show, 10:30 a.m. Eastern for Saratoga's closing weekend as well. It's been great. We really, again, appreciate everyone watching. For Paul Halloran, Pete Visco, Noah Maher, and my good friend, director of racing at Hawthorne Racecourse, Jim Miller, this has been host Howard Kravitz, episode 288 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Crush your bets at Del Mar and Hawthorne on Sunday. Happy Labor Day, everyone. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.